firstly, what is Snowflake? So Snowflake is basically it's a software as a service. So it's an analytical data warehouse that is basically provided as a software as a service. So Snowflake actually provides data warehouse that is actually easier, faster, and more flexible than the traditional data warehouses that we have. And it uses a new SQL database engine with unique architecture that is designed for the cloud. And in the coming slides, we will have a look into the architecture of Snowflake, like how it works and how it is different from the traditional data warehouses. So now the next thing is like why Snowflake? So having said that, it's a software as a service provided, and now like the question comes like why Snowflake? So there are actually a number of points, but I would like to list the major points that we have, like that probably points us to like why should be using Snowflake. So first of all, I would say Snowflake, as I mentioned, it's a software as a service and it's a cloud agnostic platform. So when I say cloud agnostic platform, basically it is hosted on all the leading cloud providers, that is AWS, Azure, GCP. Right, the user experience that is actually retained for all the three, and it can basically fit the customer's needs accordingly. The customer can actually deploy it in the regions that make sense for their own businesses. So if I talk about the next thing is scalability. So Snowflake actually offers multi-cluster data architecture that basically separates out the compute and the storage resources. So when this is done, this actually enables the user to scale up the resources when and as needed. So if we need to load large amount of data, need to process large amount of data, they can actually scale the warehouses, or well, what we call the clusters as warehouses, up and down according to the need. So basically, without the interruption of service, we can do that thing. And customers can actually, they can start from extra small to extra large, 3-4 times large warehouses as they come in the t-shirt sizes. So, and to like ensure this minimal administration and scalability, Snowflake has implemented auto scaling. When I say auto scaling, it's basically it has the features of auto resume and auto suspend. So in auto resume, what it does is, like, for example, sorry, so if I have like auto resume is basically when I just start a query, or like I start the processing, the warehouse automatically starts without me, like without the user going and have to manually do it. And similarly, it's with there is a feature of auto suspend. So if a warehouse is not being used, so you can actually set the timing. There is a feature in which you can set the timing, which is generally kept as 10 seconds. So like that means if you're not using a particular warehouse for 10 seconds, it'll auto shut off with its on its own. We need not take care of that. So this basically provides flexibility, performance optimization, as well as cost management. So talking about the next thing, it's concurrency and workload separation. So I would say, like in traditional data warehouses, users and processes would compete for like resources. So there are actually concurrency issues that rise up. So for example, if you can see like some of the ETL or the ELT jobs running overnight when there is no reporting being done. So we have to have a proper management of all those things. So with Snowflake, actually, as it already I have mentioned, it has a multi-clustered architecture. So this thing is overcome, in which all the queries and workloads, they are distributed against the different warehouses. So there is no contention of resources, I would say. Yeah, and that actually increases the processing power and the concurrency that we need while doing our work. So the next thing I would like to mention, near zero administration. I already actually mentioned that. So like when we say near zero administration, exactly by that what I mean is, as I mentioned, so software like Snowflake is offered as a SaaS platform, that is a software as a service. So we actually on our own, we need not maintain the platform. It's basically we have the team. So all the basic activities of the DBAs and IT teams, the involvement of the DBAs and IT teams is minimal here. So we need not install any software or hardware or commission anything like any hardware or software. And due to that, actually it's easy to maintain the platform as is. And then the features of the auto scaling that I mentioned, so that is another thing like which helps us not focusing on rather like exactly on like switching on off the warehouses. Instead of that, we could actually focus more on the logic itself. So Snowflake actually doesn't support indexes, so there is no tuning of the database and indexing of the tables that we need. So that is another thing that actually helps in the administration, like reducing the administration tasks that we have. So the next point I would like to talk about security. So the way the users access Snowflake and how the data is stored. So Snowflake actually offer for these a wider like range of security features. So you can actually manage the network policies by whitelisting the IP addresses and to restrict to your accounts. And apart from that, Snowflake supports two-factor authentication, SSO, and the whole security mechanism is actually controlled through a hybrid model of in which we have discretionary access as well as RBAC, that is called the role-based access model. So with this hybrid approach, like we have a significant amount of control and flexibility of how we can control the data objects that we are working on. And I would at last I would say the data at transit and data in rest, all time the data in Snowflake, it is actually encrypted, and it is encrypted with like by default as an AES 256. So thank you.